Hello everyone, welcome back to our book club.
Hi there, yes, welcome indeed back to Telescola.
I am Miss Maka.
And I am Mr. Daryl. Ms. Maka, today we have something horrific, something scary for our viewers.
Ew, that's very interesting.
The Fall of the House of Usher.
By Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, that's a classic name.
Yeah.
Famous horror author. Well, today's story is a work of Gothic fiction and includes the themes of madness, family, isolation, and metaphysical identities.
Yeah, Poe sought to inspire powerful emotional responses to his stories. But before we move to our book, and to talk about the details of the book, let's look at our agenda. So firstly, we'll start with the vocabulary part. After, we will talk about the author, and then shortly tell you the summary of the book.
From there, we will look at some of the characters, not too many this time. We'll have a look at the setting, looking at the where, the when, and finish off with some main themes. But
it is not the end of our today's program. Of course, we will give you the homework.
Well, Ms. Maka, I think it's time to look at the vocabulary. Our first word is a noun, and it's tract. Tract. And this is a piece of land or a piece of something, a section of something larger.
ნაკვეთი, ფართობი.
Our next word is turret. Turret is a kind of tower, small tower that exists off of a castle or some kind of larger structure.
პატარა კოშკი.
Our next word is solace. Solace. Solace is when you take comfort from something after feeling emotional pain or something.
ნუგეში, ნუგეშის ცემა.
Our next word is a noun, sojourn. Sojourn. This is when you take a short little vacation somewhere to take a break.
სადმე ხანმოკლე პერიოდით წასვლა, ყოფნა.
Our next word is to annihilate. Annihilate. It's a verb, and it means when you completely destroy something right down to the bare minimum.
დამარცხება, განადგურება.
Our next word is a beautiful word, sublime. Sublime. Probably one of the most beautiful words in English because it means something that's majestic, fantastic, the peak of perfection.
შთამბეჭდავი, დიდებული.
Our next word is a funny little adjective, utter. It's pronounced funny too, utter. This is when it indicates something completely taken to the extreme. So if I said something was utterly destroyed, or the destruction was utter, it would be the destruction was complete.
სრული, აბსოლუტური.
And our last adjective is insufferable. Insufferable. This is when something, you can't even stand to be near it. Like if it bothers you to a huge degree, it is insufferable.
გაუსაძლისი, აუტანელი.
Those are our words. Now, let us move
to the author part. As we mentioned, William Edgar Allan Poe. So he was born in 1809 and died in 1849. Was an American writer, poet, editor, and literary critic. Poe is best known for his poetry and short stories, particularly his tales of mystery and macabre. Now,
Edgar Allan Poe is widely regarded as the central figure of Romanticism in the United States. And this is deeply attached to his tales of horror, his deeply psychological tales. He was one of the America's earliest short story writers as well.
Yeah, and he's also considered the inventor of the detective fiction genre and is further credited with contributing to the emerging genre of science fiction, the most popular, I think, in the younger generation.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it seems like he was behind so many things, the short story, the science fiction story, the horror story.
Exactly, he's very diverse in his writings.
Poe was one of the first well-known American writers to earn a living, to make his money, through writing alone. So he didn't have a second job like many people did before him. He wrote, and whatever he made off his writing, that's what he lived off of.
So Poe's best-known fiction works are Gothic. So his most recurring theme is deals with the question of death. So including its physical sign, the effects of decomposition, and the premature burial, and the reanimation of the dead and mourning.
Wow, a lot of dark things there.
Yeah. So today it will be very interesting, I think, because young generation really loves this genre.
The mysterious, the supernatural,
Unknown.
the supernatural as well.
Yeah.
Let's have a question for the audience now. Now, Edgar Allan Poe is known as being one of the first American writers to survive using his writing as a financial income. Do you think governments should support artists and writers in their work by giving them stipends to live on?
Yes, I definitely consider that governments should allow a stipend for artists, painters, and also writers, because we really appreciate and respect their contribution for society. And we also recognize that their work is one of the most difficult and challenging one in commercial market.
That's a very generous answer. Yeah, we should help artists because it's not often easy to be an artist.
It's not, definitely, and as she mentioned, it has the profit, and also I think that is the face of your country, and the other countries see you with art.
Mm-hmm. It
Right?
looks better for you as well.
It is, so that's why government should give some kind of help. Okay, now let's move on and look at our summary part. So an unnamed narrator approaches the House of Usher. So now that's the beginning of a scary story. So this is the full dark and very soundless day. So this house, the estate of his boyhood friend, Roderick Usher, is gloomy and mysterious. So the narrator observes that the house seems to have absorbed an evil and diseased atmosphere from the decaying trees and murky ponds around it.
Very, very kind of horrific.
Yeah.
So the narrator has come to the house because his friend Roderick sent him a letter begging him to come quickly. So Roderick had written that he was feeling physically and emotionally ill, and so the narrator comes rushing to his assistance.
Yeah. So the narrator finds the inside part of the house just as spooky as the outside part of the house. Spooky, so we can say spooky, the word is like very strange and scary, both together, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he makes his way through the long passage to the room where Roderick is waiting. The narrator also notes that Roderick seems afraid of his own house.
Oh, imagine that. The narrator spends several days trying to cheer his friend up, make him happy. He listens to Roderick play the guitar, makes up words for his songs, and he reads him stories. But he cannot lift Roderick's spirit. Soon, Roderick says that the house itself is unhealthy, just as the narrator supposed at the beginning of the story.
Yeah. So how surprising it is that Roderick's childhood friend, the narrator, didn't know that Roderick had a twin sister. So Roderick's sister, Madeline, dies, and Roderick decides to bury her temporarily in the tombs below the house. And this is the only time when narrator understands that he had a twin sister.
Mm-hmm. One night, the narrator cannot sleep either. So he's getting this strange sickness. Mm-hmm. Roderick knocks on the door, apparently hysterical. The narrator decides to read to Roderick in order to pass the night away and to calm him down. As he reads, he hears noises that correspond to the descriptions in his story. Mm-hmm. So as he reads something, he'll hear something that happens that matches the story.
That is very scary. I can't even imagine living in this type of house.
I'd run away from the house.
Definitely. So Roderick actually reveals that he has been hearing those sounds for days and believes that they have buried his sister, Madeline, alive. And he insists that she is standing just behind the door. What would you do if someone told you that the dead person is standing behind the door?
Well, I wouldn't be in the same country at that point.
Or at least in the same house.
In the same house, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll have to find out how it ends. We're not going to give away the ending just yet. That's always made me think about horror stories. When you watch a movie and you know the house is haunted and you know the people know that it's haunted, why don't they ever run away? Why stay in the house?
I don't know. I don't know what I would do, to be honest, because once I had this situation when I heard a very strange noise downstairs, and even though when I watch the movies, I always say, why do they go and check? I checked.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know what I would do there, and maybe that's curiosity that drives them crazy and check.
And bravery. I mean,
Is it? Is it bravery? I don't know, but it's up to the reader to decide. It's bravery or just curiosity also.
Or a foolishness. I mean,
Yeah.
if there's a ghost in the house, you don't want to be in the house.
Definitely not. Okay, so now I think it is time for the question. Why do people love horror stories?
I think there is something about fear which makes people feel electric and excited, a sense of being more alive. Ordinary life can be boring sometimes, and the feeling of being afraid because of a story makes you feel like you are suddenly in a new world.
Good answer. And yeah, that is why we read stories to begin with, to be in a new world, in a new feeling.
Yes, but Mr. Derill, what do you think? Which one is scarier, watching these horror movies or reading horror stories?
Oh, that's a good question. Both can be scary in different ways. In a horror film, you have visuals, you have the jump scares,
Sounds.
you have the sounds, and it can make you feel that much more scary. But if you're sitting in a quiet room by yourself and you're reading a horror story, I think it's almost as scary.
Especially the writer, when the writer uses those special techniques to make you scared.
Yeah, like a master of horror can easily scare anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's look at the characters now. There aren't too many, so we will do our best to kind of talk about them. The narrator is the first character. The narrator, he's never named. You don't know his name, and we'll talk about that later as to why. There's an idea as to why. He's Roderick's best friend, best childhood friend, and he's contacted by Roderick during this friend's emotional distress. The narrator knows little about the House of Usher and is the first outsider to visit the mansion in many years.
And I think that secret also makes the story even more scarier, scarier.
It's good that he didn't know too much about the house, because we find out as he finds out.
Yeah, together with the narrator. Yeah. Our next character is Roderick Usher, so the owner of the mansion and actually the last male of his family line. Roderick functions as a double of his twin sister, Madeline. He represents the body, the mind to her body, and suffers from the mental counterpart of her physical illness. And Roderick is very intellectual and bookish.
Now, you said that he's the last male in the Usher line. Does that hint that there's a tragic ending to the story?
Maybe the writer is actually using that symbol to kind of let the readers predict what is the end of the story.
Let's look at the last character now, Madeline Usher, the twin sister of Roderick. She's the victim of a mysterious illness, and by the way, because the narrator is surprised to discover that Madeline is a twin, she signals that the narrator's outside relationship to the House of Usher, he's not a close friend.
Okay. So now let's have a question from the characters part, Mr. Derill.
Now we have a question for you. is the story helped or hurt by having so few characters?
I think story becomes more focused by having only 3 characters pushing the story forward. There are only few distractions from the main theme and the main line, which is to create a story full of horror and fear.
Good. So that focus on a few characters, you can tell the story better.
Yeah, and I think that's an effect also of being more and more scary.
Very good. Now let's move to the setting. As you remember, we talk about the when and the why. I'll start with the when. We're talking about 19th century America. It was quite a diverse time for writers and so on. We had Herman Melville, all those great American classic writers, and Edgar Allan Poe comes up in this era. There was a taste for supernatural, horrific stories, macabre stories, as Maka mentioned earlier, and all of this is a perfect time for Poe to come in.
And the where part is also very important for creating the background of the story. This is Usher's family mention. So the story possesses the main features of the Gothic tale, a haunted house, dreamy landscape, mysterious sickness, and doubled personality. For all its easily identifiable Gothic elements. And however, part of the terror of the story is vagueness.
We can't say where for sure the story takes place. Instead of the standard narrative markers of place and time, Poe uses the traditional Gothic environment, kind of, misty mansion in the far off from a city, to indicate a haunted space. And we are alone with the narrator in this haunted space, and neither we nor the narrator know why.
Oh, okay. So, and also I want to focus more on the word haunted. So it is connected to magic and especially evil magic, right?
Yes, I think it is.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. So now let's have a question to our audience. Why did Gothic stories have so much mystery and the unknown in them?
Gothic stories focus on the soul and on the unknown aspects of the world. It needed mystery to make this seem very effective. We can dream and imagine more than is actually there when the things are left unknown and undefined.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. So, yeah, exactly, that's it. And I think people really enjoy reading Gothic stories because of the mystery it keeps.
It's kind of psychologically interesting as well. Now we're moving to the main themes. As you know, it's that time again, the main themes discussion. And we're talking about a few themes, the first of which I'll start with. We've titled it, The Narrator is You. So this is we're going to finish an idea we started earlier. So the narrator, which is common for Poe to use, it's in the first person perspective. So it's written from the point of view of this person, the story, the narrator. Well, he's left quite unidentified. And I think the point is because he's supposed to be you.
Okay. The story contains no descriptions of his physical features. Also, his age is not known, and also we don't know where is he traveling from. Apart from his boyhood friendship to Roderick, we don't know any history of the narrator. This is all intentional. Poe designs the character as a stand-in for the reader. And when we talked about which one is scarier, watching the horror movie or reading scary stories, I think that one is also very important, that the writer leaves it up to the reader how to imagine it. And the reader will imagine the most dangerous
or
scariest character for his or her own.
The absence of a specific description of the character allows the reader to identify with the narrator. That's why he's so vague. You don't really know too many details. You can imagine that you are him or her. In effect, the reader assumes the role of the narrator, and the experiences of the House of Usher happen to the narrator and to you.
Mm-hmm. The second main theme is claustrophobia. So Poe creates a sensation of claustrophobia in the story. The narrator is mysteriously trapped by the lure of Roderick's attraction, and he cannot really escape until the House of Usher collapses completely.
Mm-hmm. Characters can't move or act freely in this house because of the structure. So it assumes a kind of a monstrous character of its own, the Gothic mastermind that controls the fate of all its inhabitants.
Yeah, and Poe actually creates confusion between the living things and inanimated objects by doubling the physical House of Usher with the genetic family line of the Usher family, which he refers to as the House of Usher.
Mm-hmm. So it's the house and the family, they both have this same structure.
Yeah.
Now, our third theme is mind versus body. And we talked about this a little bit back in the character sketch, but we'll expand on it now. So Poe uses these characters to explore the philosophical mystery of the relationship between mind and body. With these twins, the brother and sister, Poe imagines what would happen if the connection between mind and body were severed, were cut, and assigned to separate people. So the one represented the body, one represented the mind.
So the history of the Usher's line established that Roderick is actually inseparable from his sister. Although the mind and body is separated, they remain dependent on each other for survival.
So he's kind of making a point that normally the mind and body should work together, but in this instance they're split apart. So something is not correct.
Yeah, like the balance is ruined, I think.
Very good. This interdependence causes a chain reaction when one of the elements suffers a breakdown. So in this case, the sister suffers a breakdown. Madeline's physical death coincides with the collapse of both Roderick's sanity and the Usher's mansion.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, Mr. Deril, do you have a question from our main theme part?
I do have a question. You can see that there is philosophy in this story as well as horror, so he's put a lot of thought into it. Do you think that makes the story more effective?
I think that this story became a classic because of its deeper themes and philosophical ideas in it. A simple story wouldn't have stayed popular for so many decades.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Philosophy will never ever die, I would say.
Well, it makes the story more a classic. It can relate to new generations constantly.
Yes, thank you very much. So now I think it's high time to wrap up everything. And of course, we started with the author, Edgar Allan Poe.
Then we moved on to the summary. As you know, the narrator comes to a house that's haunted. He feels it haunted from the very beginning. As he discovers more about the house and his friend, he realizes that it is indeed haunted.
Yeah, and of course we talked about the characters. Although they are not many, they are very useful and create a fantastic story. This was Usher himself, his Roderick Usher himself, his childhood friend that is supposed to be you, and his Roderick's sister.
Who's like half of himself.
Half of him, yeah.
Well then, what about the setting? It's the 19th century in America. And it's this Gothic mansion, the Usher family house.
Then we had main themes, where the first one was the narrator is you. Then we had mind and body, and also claustrophobia.
By the way, are you claustrophobic?
I think I'm not. I have never been trapped so that I could know, but generally being in an elevator or in a closed area does not really work on me like in a negative way.
What's worse about being in an elevator is just you want to get out. You want to be,
Definitely.
You want to be free.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. What about
you, Mr. Darryl?
Have I been stuck in an elevator?
Yeah. No, like being claustrophobic.
Claustrophobic?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Now the vocabulary part, it would be very useful for us to hear from you, the pronunciation.
Okay, I'll do that quickly. We'll just say them for pronunciation purposes. We had tract, turret, solace, sojourn, to annihilate, sublime, utter, and insufferable.
Thank you very much. And of course, it is time for our homework, and I'm really looking forward to your answers.
Why? Do you want to be scared?
No, I would really love to see what children see as really frightening and what they consider it and how they will describe it.
Well, we'd like you to write your own classic horror story. Try to imagine what would make a classic horror story. You've seen this classic story. Now you make your own. Be creative. Create something that will scare people in a serious way.
დაწერეთ კლასიკური საშინელებათა ჟანრის პატარა მოთხრობა. ეცადეთ იყოთ კრეატიულები და შექმნათ ისეთი ნაწარმოები, რომელიც ხალხს ნამდვილად შეაშინებს. And then you ask me why I am looking forward to their answers?
Yeah, I did ask you that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. What they consider to be very frightening.
You're looking forward to being scared.
Yes, kinda. Okay. So, do you know what are the creatures that are mostly used? What do you think they will use mostly?
Ghosts?
Or clowns?
Clowns?
Yeah.
Because of the movies lately?
Yeah, exactly. I think it is really influencing.
Are you scared of clowns?
A little bit. Yes, I am.
Ms. Maka, they can send those answers to the address you see on the screen right now.
გამოაგზავნეთ დავალებები ეკრანზე მითითებულ მისამართზე. So, I guess that's all for today. Yeah?
I've had a good time being scared a little bit.
Yeah, me too. And thank you very much. Thank you, the audience, and thank you, the TV audience, for watching us. See you next week.
And don't forget to watch out for those ghosts that might be lurking around. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.